I welcome you all to this virtual conference on the State of the Nation Roundtable series here on Njenje Media TV, London and Nigeria, titled Nigeria's Unstable Federalism and Quest for Solution, hence the reason why all of us are here this evening. In this virtual conference, we will be exploring the critical issues of constitutional reform in Nigeria. Our central focus is the proposal to return to the 1963 Republican Constitution and the most recent advocacy that have rattled the nation, as some may put it, by one of our panelists here, Dr. Akin Fapohunda, to convert the 36 states of the Federation to 9 governing regions as a means to pave the way for a safer or for a safe democratic review. Though these propositions have been accused of by some as flying a kite, for instance, Ninas, on the other hand, is calling for a fresh start, dismantle everything, start afresh. And the Patriots, on one hand, maintains that the 2014 Confab report, the draft, is the way to go. We must note that various schools of thought have emerged, each advocating different approaches. We aim to foster informed dialogue and consensus on the best path forward. Let us engage in a meaningful discussion to chart a course towards a stronger democratic foundation for Nigeria, agreed via a referendum by the people that would have to offer the people equity, justice, and fairness. And these, once done, must be felt by all the federating units. This evening, I have the privilege of having the panelists here. First in my list is Dr. Akin Fapohunda, a retired federal civil servant, school proprietor, advocate for the politics for national equity in Nigeria. Dr. Akin, you say hello to us.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone, panelists, and then viewers across the world.
Thank you very much. I understand today is going to be a very interesting day for all of us here. Now, I also have Hajiya Binta Adamu, an expert on bullying and peace building management. Hajiya, are you there?
Good evening, everybody. My camera has like please.
Hajiya, I think you may have to move to a different location. Your voice was crackling, but at least we know you are here. Thank you very much. And if we see you in the video, that will be also awesome here. Thank you very much for joining us. And also we have Jonathan Akuns, a traditional ruler of Dafo in Boko local government area of Plateau State, a former economist at the Central Bank of Nigeria, board member of NAFCON Limited, honorary special advisor to Plateau State government. Jonathan Akuns, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Fellow
Thank you very much.
And distinguished members, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to share our thoughts together.
Thank you very much. The next guest here, a panelist, is Professor Chidi Osuagwu, a thinker, a former chairman, African Future Earth Committee. Professor, you're welcome. Professor Osuagwu. May you unmute, Prof.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for being part of us here this evening. Now, here also, I have an Amazon from the Niger Delta, Annkio Briggs, environmental and human rights activist. Annkio, are you in the house? Okay, Annkio may be running late in joining us. I also have Dr. Shehu Balarabe Kakale, former Nigerian House of Rep member. Doctor, are you here? Dr. Shehu? And Reverend Professor Yusuf Turaki, Distinguished Professor of Theology and Social Ethics. Professor? Okay, Prof might be joining us later. I had a conversation with him before now. Last but not the least, here is Comrade Abdullahi Yawa, PhD, sociologist, security expert, civil activist, public affairs commentator. Comrade, thank you once more for being part of this evening conversation. Now, to start with, before we dive into the conversation this evening, there is something I believe that is of interest and paramount here that we have to look at. There is a note here that says, basic features of a federation, and it starts with, federalism is a system of government where power is divided between a central authority and constituent political units, such as states or province, to achieve maximum stability and socio-economic progress in a country or nation. The basis of federalism can be summarized as follows. Balanced federalism, constitutional framework, a clear and robust constitution that outlines the powers and responsibilities of both the federal government and the constituent units. Power sharing, a balanced distribution of power between the federal government and the constituent units, ensuring that each has sufficient autonomy to manage its affairs. Autonomy and self-governance. Constituent units have the significant control over their internal affairs, allowing them to address unique regional needs and priorities. And federal authority. The federal authority has sufficient power to address national concerns such as defense, foreign policy, and regulation of interstate commerce. Revenue sharing, a fair, transparent system for sharing revenue that the federal government and constituent unit ensuring that each has sufficient resources to fulfill each responsibilities. Checks and balances, a federal system to check and a federal system of checks and balances to prevent any one level of government from abusing its powers. That is a very good point here. Number 7, no dominant unit. No single constituent unit should be so large or powerful that it can dominate the federal government or the other constituent units combined, ensuring that the interests of all units are represented and protected. Impartial, imbalanced federalism, obviously, has its component which has to do with over-centralization, centralization, inadequate revenue sharing, that is, the revenue sharing formula is biased towards the federal government or a selected few constituent units, leading to physical disparity and inequalities, lack of checks and balances, dominant units. In all this, it is, in my considered opinion, that this evening, as I've highlighted at the beginning, that we wouldn't have to look at something and walk away from here this evening agreeing, that there must be equity, justice, and fairness in the propositions that we make here this evening. Understanding that 2 of the panelists here will be leaving because of another engagement within the next couple of minutes or hour, I would want to start with Dr. Akin Fapohunda, the one who made the proposition of collapsing the 36 states of the Federation and, giving us what, that is his proposition. Let no one kill him for that. He's thinking that this 36 states should be collapsed and we should now move into 9 regions of governance. Doctor, welcome once more. May you take the virtual lectern and give us your opinion in the next 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad you read out the features of federalism. On all counts, we had a faulty foundation, we had a faulty process. To build the house, you need concrete and iron. It's proven, but if you don't have the right mix, the house will collapse. Will you blame concrete and blame iron rod for collapse of building? No. If you don't do the right mix, the building will have to come down. Did parliamentary system fail? No, we failed it. In 1960, the content of our government was imbalanced. There were instigations. What happened in the Western Regional Assembly was instigation to cause chaos. And then that's the beginning of the failure. Nothing wrong with parliamentary system at all, but we didn't practice it properly. That's just the first step. Now we move to presidential system. It's a very expensive system if you want to practice it. But we are so poor. We have executive president, executive governors, executive chairman, local government. In my region alone, Southwest, there are 137 LGA chairmen drawing money. There are 177 assembly members drawing salary. They meet only twice a week. Is that a balanced system? It's not. So, in brief, we have to get it right. My proposition all along is not based on different politics at all. It's based on pragmatism. We are poor, or we have become poor deliberately. We have depleted our resources. We are now broke. All the money we are earning is to pay interest. So, can we maintain presidential system? No, we can't. Can we maintain the balkanized territory to 36 states and then 774 local governments? Let's compute the impact of that financially. We can't. That's the rationale that we were balkanized before. Now we need to aggregate if we are very serious. We're in a state of uncontrolled demolition of Nigerian polity now. Can you imagine cholera outbreak in Lagos, killing 100 people in Lagos of all places? Cholera. No pipe-borne water. I mean, we are just not we are not even a traditional society, not of a modern state. So we need to get it right. We need to compress. And we did a study. We were used to six regions in the last maybe 8 years or more. Ekweme propounded it and people seem to have accepted it. But if you are moving forward, that 6 regions are so many inbuilt, obvious injustices that have to be corrected. On that basis, my group, Coalition of Indigenous Ethnic Nationalities, came out with 8 regions. If I wish to stop at 12-state structure in 1967, that would have been nice. But now we have to collapse back to 8 regions. And my document says draft for discussion. We are
You've been muted.
okay, I'm back on.
Okay.
My document is calculated that causes so more furore among my brethren from the east, only from the east, only the Igbos are complaining. I have no right, I'm not a military general to dictate that the boundary should be anywhere. Document is for discussion. And the boundaries, and I said there for 1 year henceforth, there'll be discussion, people will agree on where they want to be, they will have a regional constitution, they will have a regional protocol, they will decide who can live with one another. And in that document, it is even there that if you agree in 2024 to be in one area, if 5 years later you don't like it again, you are free to also move again. The procedure is specified there. So the document is not etched in granite. I'm not to sentence anybody to any slavery. I haven't made the point. The one I'm so sure of, I'm not sure of the East because I don't live there. And the one I believe of, the Akuns can decide not to come with Yoruba. We can't conscript them, we can't force them. It's just a proposal. The Shekiris, maybe they will come. It's left to them.
Okay.
Okay, let me stop that. The point I want to make therefore now is that classically, if we want to remove the imbalance in Nigerian system, we must have a clear and clean two-tier structure. Each structure must have its own governance framework, which is constitution. Number two, we have problem with elections in Nigeria. Election is fraudulent. We have to do away with elections. We can't do elections the way we are doing it. It's not election at all. Second, okay. Lastly, census is a critical issue. We are not yet in agreement about census. So the document I proposed, if we want to remove every sign of fighting and dislocation, let's have 8 regions that are roughly balanced, and let's have equal regions, equal number of seats in the new National Assembly. That will cure so many things. Let me stop at that.
Thank
anyway,
you.
the document is available for people to look at.
Okay. Thank you very much, for that introduction to what you have posited. Now, I want to acknowledge the presence of Professor Yusuf Turaki. Professor, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Prof, if you can bring down your system a little bit so that we can see you. We can only see the greater part of an overhead. Yes, thank you very much, Prof. And I also have acknowledged the presence of Comrade Dr. Abdullahi Yawa. Comrade, are you there? Comrade, you can always unmute, but it appears you are not logged on with audio, Comrade. You can go out, come back in, select audio so that you can come in. Now, we've all heard what Dr. Akin posited here, that he is not instructing anyone. And he said something that upon all the federating units in Nigeria, that only the Southeast appear to be those that have given him a hard tackle. We will come to that later. But before I get to that, let me take another proposition from His Royal Highness Jonathan Akuns.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I consider the fact that before 1900, the polity called Nigeria today consisted of diverse ethnic nationalities, each with its own model of statecraft. Between 1900 to 1963, 30th September, colonial administration brought all those diverse ethnicities together, put them through a whole gamut of what it takes to operate a republican democracy for a period of 64 years, after which the transition period from 1st October 1960 to 30th September 1963 was an opportunity for those ethnic nationalities to make a decision to continue as one polity or to disaggregate into ethnic boundaries, as it were. A meeting of those ethnic nationalities took place in Lagos in July 1963 for 2 days from 25th, and agreed with a proposition to continue as a single territorial entity, but as a republican democracy. As a result, a constitution was enacted on 1st October 1963, called the Nigerian Republican Constitution. That was when self-rule began in earnest. So all the features of federalism that the host read out are properly grounded in that document that was enacted on 1st October 1963 as the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Regrettably, that experience lasted only 2 years, 3 months, 14 days. It was simply just taken off. It had not matured. Yet by January 15, 1966, it was terminated by a military coup d'etat, bringing in military governance into the affairs of Nigeria from that day to current date. Meaning that we had not experienced the republican democracy in a manner to understand it thoroughly. Before then, there were issues about the structure of the federation. The Williams Commission of 1957-58 is a classical testimony to the fact that there was the need to restructure the base of the federation. Because of the military coup that truncated democratic rule, Republican democratic rule. Between then and now, we've been operating technically without a constitution, no written constitution. Military decrees are simply a political process or a professional process of handling power. It's not a constitution. So the constitution was suspended by decree number 1 of 1966, and decree number 34 of 1966 unified the political power that was already dissolved among the federative units. Operating system. And then we have had two sessions of civilian administration, 79 and 1999. Those are basically civilian administration operating on a military decree. Decree 104 of 1979 is what is being called. These 6 national geopolitical zones, they are national, they are not constitutional. They derive their origin from the beginning of colonialism in 1900, when the Northern Protectorate had 3 different regions put together: Kanuri land, Hausa land, and the Middle Belt that was called Pagan District. All those 3 were put together. They are today what constitutes the 3 geopolitical zones in the northern block of Nigeria. You go down south, Lagos was already a colony as far back as 1861. And by 1906, 1909, 1900, Oral Rivers Protectorate was created in addition to the colony of Lagos. But by 1906, the southern block was harmonized from 3 different regions: Lagos, colony, and interior. And then you had the Lower Niger Coast and the East Niger constituting the protectorate of southern Nigeria. So the 6 national geopolitical zones are just for reference. We may be modified to say, well, let every region have equal number of states, which is what 2014 conferred is all about. Bring them up to 7, like one of them has, or bring them down to 5, like one of them has, or agree on a number and make it uniform. At the end of the day, our federation will consist of the federal government and different states, like what you have in America. America has 50 states. Each state has its own law. The federal government has its own laws too. So disaggregating us is the best way to go, rather than bringing us back into 9 or 8 regions. Finally, I want to add that bringing us into 8 or 9 regions is like creating a family. A family unit is only created when a man and a woman agree to get together to make a family. You can't sit down and create a family by violence, by saying, I create you to be a family. No. When 2 of them agree and their parents consent, a new family is born. Our parents already consented. Those elders or those sovereigns that we met in Lagos in July, that agreed that we should remain a single family, and their descendants are not less sovereign than them. So that is the proposition that we put forward. To put a graphical example, like the topic says, unstable. It's unstable because the graphic example is one of an aeroplane has 3 legs with 3 tires. Keke Napep has 3 tires, 3 legs with 3 tires. If you put the tires of Keke Napep on an aeroplane, you're already in flight, or what may help you, land and go. If you put the tires of an aeroplane on Keke Napep, I'm sure it will move to nowhere because of the instability. That's why our preparation is unstable. If operating with such a constitution, so let me stop at this point, and we'll make progress as others.
Thank you.
And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that succinct intervention by yourself. Quite appreciate that. I think at this juncture, it is fair enough that we are gender balanced. It is fair enough that I bring a woman to make her intervention at this stage. Uh, we have Hajiya Binta Adamu there. Hajiya, if you may unmute. Hajiya, you can hear us very well. If you may unmute. Thank you very much.
Yes, I can hear you. My
Okay.
video has issues, please.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
Hajiya, we can hear you. Now, why don't you take 5 minutes to give us your perspective on the subject so here discussed.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I want to appreciate Dr. Akin for a job well done. He's really done a good job. And what he said, or what they said on that his issue, it came at the right time, because we need change now. We've gone to the to the political presidential era. It's not working. So we need change. We need change, because as things are going, I used to refer the military era. But now that they're talking about the federation, I think it will work fine for us. Have a state is not being controlled properly. The local government is not being controlled properly. So I think it's the right time for us to do the right thing. Like in Burkina Faso, when the military took over, he did the needful. I think in Nigeria, if we could follow set, it will really help us. Because like these political people, the way they go about things, they want to get money, get cars, fleet of cars. It's not what we need. We want the youth. We want the youth. We want job creations for the youth, so that we know what is going on. Like now in Kenya, they are also advocating for similar things. They are also advocating for similar things. They are tired of the politicians getting richer and every day. So, and the youths have nothing to do. So we need the youths to come on board, to take care of themselves, to be empowered, and so on. So I think when we go to this system of 9 regions, it will really help us. We'll reduce a lot of havoc that is going on. Corruption is because most of these politicians, I'm very sorry to say, most of them are not educated. They just go there to acquire wealth. When they talk of constituency projects, if not seen around, and also when they they forget about the people. So I think what Dr. Akin has proposed is at the right time now, so that everybody will be carried along, like the communities, the local governments, the states, it will belong to all of us, but not certain few people that will take the lead. So I think with these few points, I will stop here so that somebody else will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hajiya. Thank you for making that point. In other words, you are supporting the points made by, or rather, the position of Dr. Akin Fapohunda. Now, let me, at this juncture, I don't know if, before I bring in before I bring in the Professor Osuagwu here, let me quickly take Comrade here. Comrade, I don't know if you're able to sort your issue out. Can you now take the virtual lectern? Comrade Yawa, you are still not joined with audio. Comrade, can you please leave and come back? I know you can hear me, but if you leave and come back, ensure you select to join by audio, because I can see you, but you are not joined with audio. While you're doing that, now at least this is the first round of basically laying the ground postulations here. Let me take Professor Chidi Osuagwu before I go to Professor Turaki. Professor Chidi Osuagwu, you have listened to propositions so far made. What's your take, and where do you think we should be and what should be talking about right now in 2024?
Thank you very much. Now, I think I want to remind us that today, 6th of July, is the 57th anniversary of the start of the war that was the fallout of Nigeria's imbalanced federation. The problem we have in Nigeria is that our people are not reading people. So in most cases, they try not to check out the facts. They are not oriented to checking out the facts. But like you read out at the beginning, the features of a proper federal system. A federal system is created so that it has structural balance. There is a relationship between the structure and anticipated stability. But I have a book in my hand here. This book is called Document on the Decolonization of Empire, Series B, Volume 7, Nigeria. In this book, it is stated that Britain set out deliberately to create an imbalanced federation that will have a dominant north that will dominate federal Nigeria and allow Nigeria to remain part of informal British Empire. It is written in this book, and there are 2 volumes of this book. You can see them in my hand. And the soft copies are online. People can get these books and read them. So the Nigeria First Republic failed or collapsed because Britain designed it to be unstable. And it collapsed and led to a war which Britain had planned before independence. Britain had planned war against Eastern Nigeria to take place by or before or by 1958. And it is written in this book in my hand. These are the classified British colonial documents. So we have to take that into consideration so that Nigerians don't take too much responsibility for both the structure of Nigeria and the war that resulted from the collapse of a structure Nigeria and Britain designed deliberately. Having said that, we now know this idea of regions, provinces, and so on. Many people don't know that there was a 6-tier system in the First Republic, in the 1963 Constitution. There was the federal, there was the region, there was the province, there was the division, there was the county council, and there was the local area government. So that's not the problem. The problem is the federating units at the federal level that needed to be balanced. And what the British colonial office had done to the willing commission was to send a secret memo and told them that Britain will not grant Nigeria independence if the Middle Belt region was created. They used the word fragmented. So they forbade it and made the creation of the Middle Belt a sine qua non. That's the time in this book for the granting of Nigeria what turned out to be fake independence of unstable federal system. So they also sent a secret memo to the Willing Commission report to create what they called Rivers Region for 900,000 jobs. But you take note that the Eastern minorities had demanded what was called core state, not Rivers Region. But the British feared the Ibibio people more than the Igbo because of the experience during the slave era. So why did they want Rivers Region? It is now we know. They took it for granted to de-Ibonize the Igbo and de-organize the Ogoni. They knew where the oil was at that time, and they wanted to control the oil. That's why they moved their headquarters from Share Camp quickly to Port Harcourt. But the Willing Commission didn't see the point. They know they were lying, so they ignored them. So what we need to do is to deliberately correct the structural imbalance which Britain deliberately structured into Nigeria that made it collapse into war and the neo-colony it is today. And what do you balance? We needed to balance the North, the South, the minorities and the majorities. And when you balance this, you will find out that this will lead you to 6 regions. That is the origin of the 6 regions. It was a deliberate effort to balance minorities and majorities and balance the North and the South. Any other thing away from it will be heading towards imbalance again. And some people are trying to take advantage that they think they're clever. And that 6 region would have been implemented in the Abacha Constitution because Abacha called Mbakwe. Mbakwe is my kinsman. Abacha called him and said he was going to support those 6 regions because he wanted his Kanuri people to be free of Fulani domination. And that is why during the conference 1994, we arrived the Fulani fought against creation of regions and said North-South. Abacha used the military to enter the 6 regions into the Nigerian lexicon and system. And because of the stability of that 6 regional system, nobody has been able to push it aside. Because 6, the structure of 6 is called an octahedron. It's the most stable dynamic structure in nature. So in the formulation of the 6 region, this was taken into consideration. And if you don't want to take 6, then you go to 12, which is called the dodecahedron. You don't just create something out of paper and pencil without considering the natural stabilizing character of what you are creating. So we need to correct the imbalance which Britain deliberately built into the Nigerian system that led to war, from which Britain had profited, and then create a stable system. And the best system is 6 regions. But if we must leave 6, which we should not, then we go to 12. Any other thing in between is unnatural in terms of number. There are numbers that are stable in nature, that create structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I was waiting for you to finish that. Thank you for staying on time. Now, Prof, you obviously you do not agree with the propositions of Dr. Akin Fapohunda that says whether it's 8 or 9. And you, if I understand you very well, your proposition is that the 6 geographical regions we have should be inadvertently converted into the 6 governing structures of Nigeria. Now, if we stay on that, some people would then have issues, because I've read in the last 2 months when I met Akin in Abuja, Dr. Akin Fapohunda, and we had an interview. I've had people come to me say, well, how come? I will bring out the map that he produced shortly. And people have asked, how come we have these, by this map that he has produced? Again, he said it in fairness to him, that this is to generate conversation. It's not written in stone. It is his own idea. He owns it. But when people then question, there are ethnic nationalities that appears to be in one region, whereas in other region, you have a majority of them. Isn't that going to be, if the imbalance is going to be addressed, that these bringing together certain, or in the cases where ethnic nationalities are littered or scattered everywhere, isn't that an opportunity for whatever that's going to be done through a referendum where people would have to agree, we agree to this? Isn't that going to be a solution? Whether it's 6, 9, 12, whatever it is, the nomenclature.
Okay, that is the details. That is desirable and should be done. That is desirable. Actually, people don't know that the most cheated ethnic group in Nigeria in terms of the structure of Nigeria now is the Baggy people. The Baggy, the people who own Abuja are suffering what I've been telling people is the Baggy super gerrymander. They are the largest ethnic group in the Middle Belt, 10 million people, and they were gerrymandered into irrelevance. So, in a new constitutional order, you will find out that even the Federal Capital Territory will need to be restructured to give the Baggy a due number of states. The same way, Southern Kaduna, for instance, is uncomfortable in Northwest. They should join the Middle Belt, and they consider themselves Middle Belt. The Delta Igbo want to join the Southeast. They can join the Southeast. Okay. The Igbo, Ribaran Igbo, who have some of whom are playing a British game on demonization, they can stay there until they find out what to do.
Okay.
But they should join the Igbos and consolidate in their own zone.
Prof.
So there should be plebiscites to get borderline ethnic groups to join the zones of their preference. But let it be 6 or 12. But 6 is ideal economically because models of these things in the computer everywhere have been worked. The best is 6.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, I want to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Dr. Balarabe Shehu, Kakale, who is now in our midst, is one of the panelists. Also, we have an august visitor here. I believe Professor Bolaji Akiyemi is also here. It's going to be an interesting day, honestly. And now, Prof, thank you very much for that. Let me quickly, if Professor, I don't know, Prof, are you able to, Professor Yusuf Turaki, are you able to make your intervention 5 minutes? Then I get, so for me to get to the others quickly. So, yes, Prof, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to express my greetings to all the panelists who are here today. And the discussion is very, very interesting to me. And how I wish that that can become a national issue where all Nigerians, regardless of where they come from, to really discuss what is at heart in the question of the Nigerian project. I did my doctoral research and I wrote my book, The British Colonial Legacy in Northern Nigeria. Now let me say things here. I want to thank those who have spoken ahead of me. I want to respect their views and their ideas. But this is where I come from. I come from the Middle Belt, particularly southern Kaduna. Just prior to independence, all ethnic nationalities in Nigeria were discussing what will be the structure, the nature of Nigerian independence. The British have created 3 dominant regions: Northern region, Western region, and Eastern region. Prior to independence, there are groups in Nigeria that were nicknamed the minorities. And every of these 3 regions had its own minorities. The West had its own minority. The North, its own. The East, its own. Now let me inform us what has happened to the quest of the minorities from these 3 regions, which they presented to the British government at that time. Midwest, the people of Midwest wanted their own region to be separated from Western region. And the southern part that we call Calabar Ogoja rivers, they also wanted their own region. And then in the north, the Middle Belt wanted its own region. Soon after independence, Midwest was created out of Western region. When the soldiers, the military took over, and Gowon was about to engage the other eastern part of Nigeria in warfare, popularly known as Biafra War. Gowon created and excised the southern part, the core, Calabar, Ogoja, Rivers, from eastern Nigeria. So they have been separated. Midwest, independence. Independent Nigerian created Midwest out of Western region. The military created core and separated them from Eastern region during the military era. But the British and their friends, you know, there's a book written by Sir Brian Sherwood Smith, but always as friends. It was interpreted in Hausa, Auren Zobe. What that means is that the relationship between the British and the aristocratic British and the aristocrats in northern Nigeria, that their friendship is going to be a lasting friendship. Auren Zobe. What that means is that the marriage between the British and the Hausa Fulani Kanuri rulers is going to be like a ring, marriage ring. Now, what the British did to the Middle Belt minorities, that was the heart of my doctoral research. What the British did is to deny the Middle Belters the creation of Middle Belt. Now that was built upon pseudo-anthropological research. These anthropologists, the British hired anthropologists to write narratives about ethnic groups, particularly in northern Nigeria. And they informed the British how to treat each ethnic group. What I'm saying is that the British denied the Middle Belt as the creation of their state, their region. The Middle Belt people have never agreed that you could join them to Hausa, Fulani, and Kanuri. They have never agreed. The only voices that will agree to what our brother Akin has mentioned about regionalism, the only people who will agree to it are the Hausa people, Fulani people, Kanuri people, and the Hausa Fulani people who have settled in the ancestral lands of the Middle Belters. What Nigeria needs to do is this. Western minorities, they are now on their own. Midwest. The core that wanted to be separated from Eastern region, Calabar, Ogoja, and Rivers. They have been merged with Midwest in 1976 by Abacha, and we call it South-South. And then we have the Western Southwest. And then the East, Southeast. But what Abacha did to the Middle Belt is that Abacha balkanized the Middle Belt. Abacha cut a section of the Middle Belt and appended them to the Kanuri dominance. He carved another part, Northwest, the Middle Belt, and appended them to Northwest, particularly Southern Kaduna and Southern Kebbi. Okay. What Abacha did is to leave the remaining Middle Belt which he called North Central of Nigeria. So Middle Belt has been balkanized. You see, the Hausa Fulani Kanuri, historically, they engage in warfare with the Middle Belt ethnic nationalities. And they are in that warfare until the arrival of the British. And when the British took over Northern region, 1st January 1900, and declared a Northern Protectorate over the region, what the British did was to take the so-called pagans of the Middle Belt and subordinated them to the rule and the dominance of the Hausa, Fulani, and Kanuri. What is it that they are looking for? Northern region. Northern region does not exist. Northern region is just a geographical, historical phenomenon. But today, Northern region does not exist. The Middle Belters have been destroyed, massacred, foreigner, Hausa, Fulani, Kanuri foreigners entering into Middle Belt, killing, destruction. And what are they doing? Occupying their ancestral lands. We have people in IDPs or IDP camp. Government has no policy for the Middle Belters that have been, you see, the killings. Let me say it this way. In the North, who is killing Northerners? Is it the Yoruba in the West? Are they killing Northerners? The answer is no. Are Igbos killing Northerners? No. Who is killing Northerners? The so-called Northerners are the ones killing Northerners. They have balkanized themselves into terrorist groups.
Prof.
You have Boko Haram, you have this, you have that. They are the same stock. And they have divided themselves. And they are moving southward. So what, in conclusion, sir, what I would say is that for Nigeria to do something for the Middle Belters, this is the time. This is the right time for all Nigerians. Nigerians in the Southwest, South, and Southeast, and in the Middle Belt. Team up with the Middle Belt and liberate them from the yoke that the British have created. I was a member of the National Conference, that is 2014 National Conference. And we created states. We remove ethnic nationalities that were appended to the Hausa, Fulani, Kanuri domination. We removed Southern Borno and created a state. It is called Savannah State. So that Southern Borno, the ethnic nationality in Southern Borno could be free from Kanuri dominance. We created Gurara State so that people in Southern Kaduna will be liberated from the Hausa Fulani domination. We created Kainji so that Southern Kebbi will be liberated from the Hausa Fulani domination. Now, I could go on and on. My plea is this. When somebody is talking about regionalism, we in the Middle Belt, we are talking about states. And States have been created in 2014.
Wow.
For 2014, National Conference has created states and have liberated us from the yoke.
Prof, let me ask you this question quickly. How many states were created in that 2014 confab that you partook in?
I'll tell you the ones in the north, because I'm particular with what is in the north.
18 were proposed, 18 new states.
18 new states added to
18, so with 52 to 52 states.
Yes, exactly. All right. So now to conclude, let me conclude my discussion.
Thank you, Prof.
We are not opposed. We are not opposed to regionalism. We are opposed to merging us again to what? To Hausa Fulani Kanuri domination. We in the Middle Belt, we cannot accept it and will never accept it. Anybody who is proposing regionalism, first give us our region, which the colonial masters denied us. Midwest are free. Core, Calabar, Ogoja rivers are free. We in the north, we are not free. Now they are killing us under the guise of religion. Religion is not the issue. The hatred is what? Middle Belt. What these guys want is they want our land mass.
Okay, Prof, quickly, please. Yes. I have two guests that will be leaving in the next 15 minutes. I want I'm coming back to you, Prof. Please stay around. I'm coming back to you. But let me quickly take Honourable, I think our brother, Comrade Yawa, has been able to sort out his issue. Honourable, can you please, in less than 5 minutes, make your submission, then I take Honourable Dr. Balarabe, then I can come back again before Akin and His Royal Highness Jonathan leaves. Then I'll come back to them. Comrade Yawa, please, go ahead. Can you unmute, please? You've been asked to unmute, Comrade. Comrade, we are waiting. Go ahead. Unmute, please. Okay, while you're trying to do that, obviously, there appears to be an issue. Can I take Honourable Dr. Shehu, please? Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead. We cannot hear you. It's something wrong with you. We can hear you, sir. Dr. Balarabe, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Are you talking to me?
Yes, yes. It's your turn.
Yeah, I thought you said someone else will.
No, because he's still having some issues. So I said,
okay, thank you very much. You know, I apologize for being late. I was on transit, but I had the last speaker. Mr.
Okay. Go ahead.
Is it Yusuf Tango?
No. It's Professor Yusuf Turaki.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Mr. Yusuf?
No, it's Professor Yusuf Turaki.
Yeah, Professor Yusuf. I joined, I think, when he was extensively talking about a lot of things. To me, he was just lamenting, you know, about these problems when he couldn't provide any solutions. You know, lamenting so much about ethnic jingoism and issues of everybody. A lot of people are marginalized in Nigeria. Even Fulanis are marginalized in Nigeria. Even some segments of houses are marginalized in Nigeria. And the fact that you are trying to say that the northern region doesn't exist. But the Middle Belt exists. So please, we should stop lamenting about what the British did some 100 or 80 years ago, and provide solutions, real solutions. We are talking about the structuring of this country. We're talking about regionalism. You know, the North or any of the regions are ready for restructuring. You know, our neighboring countries have structures, though it's unconstitutional, it was undemocratic the way they were structured, through coup d'etats, which is not what we want here, and we vehemently oppose it. Talking about Mali, Niger, and whatever, it's all part of that struggle. So what we have been talking about with Mr. Akin Fapohunda is a peaceful means of conversing and discussing among Nigerians on the way forward, particularly through various forms of proposed constitutional amendments. And one of them was brilliantly put out there by Mr. Akin Fapohunda of a proposed bill to go back to to amend the Constitution, which is part of an appendage of a decree of the military. And of course, that Constitution, and talk about issues of very important issues of structure like referendum itself. Sections of Nigerians should be able to choose, you know, by themselves, you know, where they want to be or how they want to be governed. Currently, there is no referendum in the Constitution, and we as a group and many other affiliate groups are calling for an amendment to provide a section for referendum. Then, of course, the issue of regionalism, fiscal federalism, state police, and many others on judiciary, INEC, and others. But for me, we support regionalism. We support a parliamentary system of government that will deepen democracy among regions based on their core values and their advantages, whether economic, political, or social. And of course, we are not rooting for the Westminster style parliamentary system. No, we want a homegrown, organic form of parliamentary system where all representatives of peoples in Nigeria, you know, put down the way and manner they want the country to go, and then we come up with a document that we're going to work with. So that issue of lamentation is not what brought us here. We are here to provide solutions, please. Nobody should be the ticket for us. Continuing to blame the British for denying you a region. Who denied you that region? The Middle did it. Why didn't other regions got it? So you know, it was fraught with a lot of problems. The set of the whole country, you know, there are minefields in Nigeria today set up by the British. They created a path going into a sinkhole of backwardness and retrogression for this country. Regionalism will open up a lot of opportunities for all the regions of Nigeria, because of course each region will come with its own constitution that will really be in tandem with the needs, primary needs and aspiration of its people. Particularly, let me tell you, for the North, whether Northwest or Northeast, their economy is principally a trans-Saharan or trans-Sahelian, Mediterranean and Gulf economy for over 1,000 years. So for the Southwest, you know, of course, the economy majorly there is a West African, transatlantic, North American and South American economy with all the value chain that is there. For the Southeast, it's also a Central African, South African, and transatlantic economy. So Nigeria will even have a multi-pronged or multifaceted economic policies and foreign interaction, you know, that's independent of the current mono-economic and mono-product economy that we are running with. Under the regional system, the regions of the North, for example, can get into very, very, you know, beneficial economic ties with these Sahelian countries. And of course, as I've said, true Mediterranean and Gulf economies. Look at what's happening in Morocco. They are one of the largest countries now that are producing lithium batteries for the future. And by the arrangement of signing one treaty, economic treaty, I think with the US or Europe, they are to give beavers on their exports. So a regional Nigerian federation confederation is going to be more prosperous and more wealth creating and more inclusive, because each of these zones will grow at its own pace and in a manner that will speak to its natural, human, and other resources.
Thank you very much.
We are for regional. I'm for parliamentary system of government for this country, of course, with wide engagement of stakeholders and conversations with all peoples of Nigeria, so that we eventually come up with a brand new constitution that will maintain unity and cohesion of this country, but in a mutually agreed manner that ensures the mutual prosperity of all segments of the country in peace and dignity.
When you say a brand new constitution, when you say, let me take that. When you say a brand new constitution, you mean like the Ninas proposes that everything should be knocked down and start afresh, or that we have to tinker with the existing constitution as the National Assembly is currently doing?
Yeah, if you have studied the proposal by Akin Fapohunda, I think it's a very, very good point to start with, because the Constitution was a creation of a military decree itself. It was an appendage. And since it was an appendage, that Constitution or that decree that was the principal law or act that brought that Constitution is what his proposal is calling for an amendment of the appendix, which is the Constitution itself. So with that, Nigerians can come together and have an honest discussion on what is the best for all of us. Of course, there are other options given by people, like the group of 50 House lawmakers led by Ogochinyere, that are also proposing still a prudential system, but with 2 vice presidents and a single tenure, a rotatory presidency. That one is not parliamentary. It's still a presidential system of government. But the center is too heavy at the top, and its bottom has become wobbly, and every time it can tip over. The federal government, currently as structured by this 1999 Constitution, is
Doctor, I will come back to you, but before these two gets run,
it's overloaded.
Okay, Doctor.
Items in the list.
Your internet is flickering. I will come back to you. Hold your thoughts there. I will come back to you. Let me quickly take Akin Fapohunda and Jonathan Akins here. Now, the question here for the two gentlemen is, now, if we look at here, it appears the panelists here obviously have divergent views. Some believe that we would have to go back to the states, the propositions made in the National Assembly where we'll get up to 52 states. Some are also saying that, even the creations ab initio as a result of certain injustices and imbalance that ought to be addressed. Now, Dr. Akin here, before I let you go, what specific, if I take Jonathan, for instance, who, the larger part of his proposition is that talks about the 1963 Constitution, Now the question is, what specific provisions of the 1963 Constitution makes it a viable option for reform? How can we address the concerns raised by those who are advocating for a fresh start? If you look at Ninas is saying, no, we advocate for a fresh start. Let's actually discard these things, start on afresh, not even by the National Assembly, but by in their nomenclature by the indigenous people. So how do you address that?
The bottom line is that it happened in Togo, I think in Benin Republic. You can dissolve the political system and form a constitutional bureau. But let's be realistic, unless we have a military coup to knock out everybody and say, okay, I, General, so and so, dissolve all structures. From this day, in the next 3 months, go and talk and produce a new draft and we'll agree with it. We will not tamper with it. That's what Ninas is saying. But we know it's not practicable. We cannot have a military coup. And what I proposed is the same thing. Let National Assembly authorize officially, since they are still there, let them promulgate a law to say, go and discuss for 1 year. Come up with federal constitution, come up with regional constitution, whatever you produce among yourselves, we will promulgate it into law without tampering with it. My document says, appoint a 9-member political technical panel, one from each of the zones. Now, let them midwife that process of listening and collating and designing for the next 12 months. We will now redraw boundaries and redraw functions of various levels of government. So it's the same thing that Ninas is saying, but does he want it to do a military coup? Well, if he can plan the coup, I will support him. Let him go ahead and put that on the line.
Definitely, Tony would disagree with you on this.
Okay, fine. But what I propose now is civilized. That let's encourage National Assembly to agree to authorize us to discuss for the next 1 year.
On the event that's very unlikely that, obviously that National Assembly is not going to do that, are we going to stay in the way
we are going to stay? We are going to stay the way we are. It means we are going to be in an uncontrolled demolition of Nigeria. What I'm proposing is let us have a controlled demolition and let's guide the outcome. If they don't want to be an instrument of change will have to come. See what happened in Kenya now. The ruling class, they refuse to listen. Now the president is talking like a parrot. Okay, let's get there. Let's get there. If you don't want to, that President Tinubu will do well to support this, my proposal. Let him make a name. Let National Assembly make a name too. Give Nigerians the authority legally under the present system. Give us referendum clause. Tell us to go and debate. Appoint a technical panel to moderate the discussions. Ethnic boundaries, regional boundaries, parliamentary system. We will all come up with a draft that now belongs to us. That their law will say, we will not tamper with whatever you agree upon. We will stand by, will stay alive. October 1, 2025, whatever you agree on, we will make it a new law that will replace what you now have. That's what I'm saying. Is that not straightforward? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akin, for that final submission. I would come back to His Royal Highness Jonathan Akuns. Now, listening to some of the panelists here, we had one or two who lamented on the injustices done by the British. You are someone who also, you are from the Middle Belt. Considering the 2014 Confab report as a viable alternative to, or rather, sorry, would you consider the 2014 Confab report, because your argument tilted towards the 1963 Constitution, would you consider the 2014 report as a viable alternative to 1963 Constitution? Why or why not? So are you there? Jonathan Akuns, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Okay.
Okay. Did you catch my drift?
Yes. Thank you
Okay.
for the proposal about the 2014 confab report. Based on the proposition we put forward about lifting the suspension on 1963 Constitution to amend it with current realities, the 2014 confab report would be a big input into that amendment process. It will be a part of the current reality that has to
good
be
evening,
taken
good
care
evening,
of.
good night,
And,
good morning to everyone who is here.
I'd like you to cast your mind back to the futures.
Well, I just exited the other show is still
Sorry,
on now.
sorry. Dr. Akin, can you mute, please? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, just cast your mind back to the futures of a true federalism that you outlined.
Yes.
One key issue there is about dominance. The federating units should be of equal weight and balance. So having states as the basis of the federating units is the best way to go, not regions. The 1999 document that is called a constitution is a simple attachment to a decree. And a decree is a political process. A process cannot override the law that has brought it about. So we've been running without a written constitution from January 15, 1966 to date. That's the past 58 years. What we have had by way of civilian administration is nothing but military regime based on decree. So the question really is, the only document that was created by we the people, because a constitution derives its life from this small phrase, we the people. The only document that is keeping Nigeria together as one polity is the 1963 Constitution that was enacted on 1st October 1963. That took place after the ethnic nationalities gathered in Lagos to say, yes, Britain, the colonial administration is coming to an end. We have an option to disaggregate back to our ethnic boundaries or to continue as one polity. And they chose continuity. Since they chose continuity, they enacted the 1963 Constitution that has clear devolution of powers. Power is not symmetrical. It is asymmetrical. It's asymmetrically distributed. Resource control, and all the issues that will make even the tiniest of a state very prosperous. Our current poverty is derived from the fact that we have centralized everything into one size must fit all. One size that is pronounced in Abuja must feed the man in Calabar, and feed the man in Sokoto, and feed the man in Maiduguri, and feed the man in Port Harcourt. It's not possible. So the 1963 Constitution has the spirit of power devolution, resource control, and all the attributes of fiscal federalism. So take the 1963 Constitution, take the 2014 confab as a major input. The credit was given to the military, like I say, is that, well, they have restructured the political base from 4 federating units to 36. Now we can modify this. And as for most states, for the 6 national geopolitical zones, we can make it one zone has 7, one has 5, others have 6. We can now say, well, let's have uniform number of states per zone. And take the Middle Belt as a case study that has been cited. Even within the Middle Belt, there will be issues that we are contending with at the federation level now. But at the state level, we are basically doing what Europe has done. There's no state, no nation in Europe that's not drawn on boundary lines, except UK and Switzerland. Even then, Switzerland has a rotational presidency.
Sorry, is that me or?
Federating unit. The federating units will just be the federal government and what we call states, call them regions, call them any name. It's a question of name. Local government will be internal affairs of those federating units. They can subdivide themselves into any level. It's going to be internal to them. And because we saw what 1963 Constitution delivered in terms of the existing four regions then, prosperity across the four regions, because they had control over their resources. So we are not asking for 1963 to go back to four regions. No. We will maintain the state as the basis of federating unit. And this time around, we are saying it will look like the American system. America is a federal system with 50 states as the federating units. Any other thing is internal to the states. Ours will be that. We can modify our own as well. So I consider the 2014 Compact, as you say, to be a major input into amending the 1963 Constitution. And finally, we must take note that a decree, a military regime, is a political process. It's a professional way of managing political power. It's not a law. So how can we take a decree that is not a law to make it a law? When the Constitution that is in suspension, that is the law of Nigeria, is there. You only need to bring it up, leave the suspension by repealing those four decrees. And we go back to written Constitution, amend it with realities, and we move forward. Those are the key issues, key areas of focus of our submission.
Okay, so I mean, to gain your submission, appropriately, what you're saying is you're sticking to your gun. 1963, infusing the 2014 report as, as part of it. In your words, you said to bring it to the current realities, right?
Absolutely, as an input to bring it to current realities. And nobody is better placed to do that than the National Assembly, because Section 1 of the Constitution of 1963 says the Constitution can only be amended by a parliamentary process. So we have the parliament in place, elected by we the people.
Yeah, but who wrote the Constitution? Isn't that a contradictory to what you previously said? Who wrote the Constitution?
The 1963 Constitution.
No. The current Constitution that we have. So if that Constitution is written by the military, then isn't that a contradiction that we're going to still fall back on that Constitution?
No, I'm not for it. I do not stand for it. I am saying that is the document called 1999 Constitution. It's a decree. It's not a Constitution.
Exactly.
The document called 1979 Constitution
is the decree that gave, is this the same decree, so-called, that you alluded to, gave the National Assembly that you want to give the power to amend the right to?
No, that's a separating line. That's a separating line. I said the decree is a political process.
Yes.
It's not a law. So the law, the military regime that has existed from 1966 to date is existing upon the foundation of the 1963 Constitution. That's why decree number 1 says the Constitution is suspended, not abrogated. And decree number 34 of 66 says the devolved powers, resource control, and other federal attributes are centralized into the federal government. And I'm saying remove those decrees, repeal those decrees, because it's still a military democracy. A democracy DNA is a partisan election through universal adult suffrage. We have them in the parliament. We did that. So we can take that dividing line to say, go back to 63. Now, 1999, there's no constitution. We've been running without a written constitution. The only written constitution is that of 1963. So take it up, repeal those decrees, 4 decrees. Now leave the suspension of 63 Constitution, amend it with current realities. 2014 confirmed document will be a major input. Any other thing else will be a major input. Because the 63 Constitution has the provision on how to transit from a non-Republican democracy back to a Republican democracy.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I let you go, it's been an amazing time with you, but I believe you're still going to be on the back, listening to us on the background. I may still come back to you, but let me quickly take Comrade Dr. Abdullahi Yawa, who is unable to unmute his call, his Zoom, but I'm going to be putting him on a speaker here and let him make his own intervention through my device here. Comrade.
Thank you very much, Maazi, distinguished gentleman, lady. I want to apologize for joining late and challenges with my device, of course, as you put forward. I started when Professor Yusuf Turaki was speaking, and I'm happy that Honourable Dr. Kakale have addressed some of my observations regarding his presentation. Let's talk about the problem of the country. In my view, we'll be better together as a nation and, of course, as people that listen to one another. The reality today is that some people who have been neglected and also have been put to background so much that they are not looking as if they're stakeholders in the project for Nigeria. Many countries have even worked history of coming together and rurality than Nigeria, and yet they are doing better. Our major problem, one, is our governance, because we are not interrogating happenings at the level of our states the way it should be. If we are doing that and things are going the way they should be, some of the outcry and dissatisfaction with the structure at present may not be there. The resources being received, whether from federal or generated from local content known as internally generated revenue, or whatever source, at the state level, and the imagine practically today, we don't have local governments in Nigeria as a third tier of government. Well, in our constitution, we have a list of 774 that have been mentioned, but they are not in existence in reality because the governors are the chairmen of the local governments and are not chairing. There is no state where there is no sort of marginalization or victimization or such of some sort of suppression of certain groups. So to think about, dividing the country, especially along religion line, which in my view is the majority of the submission of Professor Yusuf Turaki when he is talking about the Middle Belt, the pre-colonial Middle Belt, and even the Middle Belt he wished to see now. It's more of a religious any other thing, not even practically practical. Be it as it may, we have more states and we go the way we are going, we'll still not be satisfied. If we regionalize Nigeria and our attitudes remain the same, the quantum of madness in form of looting of public resources, which is not seen anywhere in the world except Nigeria, because we don't have a zero no-go zone in Nigeria. For example, even money that is meant for burial, if there will be allocation for that, people will steal it. And we'll still worship them, and we'll still elect them, and we'll still give them titles. We have seen what happened in one state in the north, where somebody who is being accused of taking 180-something billion, and with a case pending before court, was given traditional title by first-class emir, a reformed first-class emir in the north, and it was celebrated, and nobody in that state said anything to some extent, and people gathered and celebrated this man, and he is still free. And some of these resources have been converted into hard currencies, and they are just lying there. Some will even die without any trace. Some have been taken to foreign countries. And these are resources that ought to have been channeled into development of Nigeria that have reduced all the tensions, and the Nigerians will live a decent life without acrimony or ill feelings against each other. And we forget who is really in charge of what sits, so long as there is justice, which is what we are lacking. Whether we restructure or we don't restructure, if we don't restructure our attitudes, if there is no attitudinal change, especially with the political class, if we are only trying to say more states because we want to be involved in sharing the cake, or we want the regionalism because we want it to come closer so that I or you or me will be involved in the affairs. Now that we are not getting there, We want the breakdown so that we'll get in only for the sake of getting in to also steal our own share the way we see them doing, not to have anything as a legacy that will, be shown for generations yet unborn, not to serve, because we have misplaced the meaning of leadership in Nigeria. Instead of taking it as an avenue of donating and sacrificing and giving our best, we have taken it to be a bento where we just went in to enrich and enhance public wealth to our own personal interest. To round it up, Maazi and gentlemen in this forum, I think for now, regionalism in the form many people are suggesting may not be a viable solution.
So in this case,
we need more states.
Comrade, if your proposition and your postulation is that regionalism is not a viable option, so would you, because I don't know if how your connection will be later, would you use the opportunity to please put your own proposition forward?
Yes, I would rather go for more states. And of course, I will support the fact that the structure as it is be amended in the sense that the powers to the states, especially in the hands of the governors.
So when you talk about more states, there is this argument that the states we have now are not viable. We have states that can barely pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. So creating more states,
they refuse to pay.
So creating more states. Are you adding as an addendum that these states have to generate resources on their own, as opposed to depending on the federal government to collect monthly handouts?
That is where I'm heading to. Meaning, we have to reduce the burden on the federal government, and at the same time, we have to ensure the viability of the states. Going forward, creating states should rely solely or mainly on this viability so that they look inwards. And the existing ones, I believe there is no state in the country, if it's looked properly inwards, that cannot manage itself. It's because of the mismanagement and, of course, the national cake, as we normally put it, that is always given at the end of the month in terms of the path, that is killing the spirit of them looking inward to do what is possible or necessary. So we need to rearrange this mentality of overdependency at the center so that each unit will stand on its own to a reasonable extent, and whatever support will come from the center should be minimal. The majority of whatever will be generated inward. That is very necessary. And also, we must understand the local government as the first tier and closest to the public, which for now have not been allowed to function, and is part of the reason why we are seeing what we are seeing. And for us to at least resolve the challenge, we need to allow them to function effectively, even with our malfunction arrangement or constitution.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very fine place to anchor it for now. Just let you know, we will be taking questions from our participant or from our audience, both on the social media platform and here in this place. Like I said before, we have eminent Nigerians that have joined us, those who are really vast in this area. Your contribution, your submissions will highly be appreciated. But let me go back again, people. We have a 8-member panelist where one of us was not able to join, 7 people. And 7 people as panelists here, and we are coming out with 4 different distinct ideas. Now, this is within 7 people, within 6 geographical zones of this nation. work there, because if we just oppose that to 200 plus million people, then there is a lot here. But let's come back here and take concrete proposition and submission from other participants here. You know, obviously you've made your initial submission. Now let's come back, having listened to all other panelists. What is now your concrete takeaway from here? Let me start with Professor Chidi Osuagwu. Professor, once more, if you may unmute yourself. Now, you blamed the British in your initial submission. You talked about the injustices the British done. My question to you is, for many years now, since 1960, the British have left us, quote unquote, whether they left us and still holding us with an invisible hand, that is left for another day's discussion. But in the clear context of it, yes, they've gone, but they may still have one or two influences regarding what happens to us. Don't you think that we should have been matured enough to look ourselves in the eye and come up with something that is workable? Listening to Dr. Akin Fapohunda, his 8-state proposition, knowing about Nina's total collapse, knock everything down proposition, listening to our dear honorable here, that is Jonathan Akuns, talking about the 1963 with some infusion from the 2014 confab. Now, our dear brother here talking about creating mod state. In all this, Prof, what is your key takeaway and proposition?
Well, like I've said, I'm not saying that the British, suggesting that the British did something. I'm saying that they did something that is documented here, that they created a structure that allowed them to maintain Nigeria as a neo-colony till today. And that structure was anchored on two things: denying the Middle Belt a region of their own, which they made a sine qua non, a condition for granting Nigeria independence. That created an imbalanced federation. Otherwise, the 1963 constitution would have worked. It is still good enough. So what I'm suggesting is let us go and correct the bad, the malicious design, the British input in our constitution by avoiding the region for northern minority. But we can do it based on 6 regions. That's the ideal, or maybe 12, but not more than that, definitely, because the present regions and states are not viable. Some of these things were just created by military officers, local government, they created for their families so that they siphon off funds from the federal Nigeria under Decree 24 or something of 1999, which has Jonathan Akuns just said, it's not it's a decree. Since 1966, we have not had a constitution. A constitution comes from the people, it's the sovereign people of Nigeria. So my submission is that we go back and correct the imbalance that created eternal colonialism that, as Professor Turaki said, made the Fulani viceroys, local representatives of the British, and they themselves are immigrants that came with this to promote slavery. That's how they arrived here. And they are now embattled from Central Africa to Senegal. where they have been committing crimes for nearly 600 years against the Bantu people. Let us correct that, minimize the violence that is consuming everybody. What is happening in Burkina Faso, Mali, Sahel, in Kenya is telling us that Africa is now ready to get true independence. So Nigeria is not alone. Let us make a conscious effort to correct what the British created out of avaricious malice and racist hatred of the black race, so that they can pump our oil without meter. We cannot say it is our fault. It's not. That is what is going on in the Sahel. That's what's going on in Kenya.
Prof, let me push back a little bit. You said that we have to correct the maliciousness of the British imperialism within the context of our constitution, but in a layman's language, for those of us, benefit of those of us watching online, based on these propositions now, you know, the so-called quote-unquote British maliciousness many young people watching may not necessarily understand that, or may not necessarily also be interested in that. They might be thinking, where do we go from here? Are we asking that something done by the British, they've left, that we cannot correct it and move forward? Therefore, I put it back again to you, Prof. In the context of what these pillars of what we have discussed today, in which box are you saying this is what we think we should be doing moving forward?
I said that the 1963 Constitution was excellent, except that the British made a secret memo to the Willing Commission that they should not create Middle Belt region, that if they did, they would deny Nigeria independence. That's what I mean by malice. And they did it because they said a dominant North, which is actually Fulani-dominated North, will allow them to maintain Nigeria as part of informal British Empire. And I want you to know, when we talk of empire and imperialism, empire represents two things according to the European system. It represents a law called the usufructuary law, which is the law of might is right, that allows an armed person to take whatever somebody else does not have. The Roman codified this law, usufructuary law. And it is the law of mammon, which works through the banks. Now, the Jews developed that one. These two things together are what is holding the world on the ground today, including Nigeria. So if we had a constitution that does not allow external colonialism as we have now, that allows those who elect to the National Assembly to share the natural resource between them, the presidency, the National Assembly, the judiciary, and the British and the Anglos and others will take the rest. That's what's going on, so that we don't have things to develop. We need to restructure Nigeria and end the internal colonialism, that the right of, say, some invading ethnic group to colonize, say, the Hausa or the Middle Belt minorities that the Fulani are doing.
Okay,
the British did not end that.
Okay.
But 1963 Constitution that gives the Middle Belt people their own region.
Okay.
In fact, we make it difficult for one region to dominate the others.
Okay, Prof, I get your gist now. In essence, you are not opposed to the 1963 Constitution without.
No.
Yes, without.
I said let us go back to it. That's what. Let's go back to it. and correct the mistake the British did. No, the bad engineering, the malice they put into it.
I get that now, but with a caveat, without the British malice. So,
and when we talk of malice, we take that seriously, because in this book, it's also written that the British planned war to invade the Eastern region by or before 1958, and only the governor Stapleton stopped him or stopped them because they wanted to crush the East.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Let me, in this case also, I think, thank God that Hajiya is still here. I would be getting Professor Turaki back again. Professor, now, if you may quickly, if you're still here, if you can, yeah, okay, yes, you're here, Prof. Now we are looking and searching for solution. Akin, I'm aware, is making another presentation to another group as we speak. And the same applies to Jonathan Akuns as well. I haven't listened to what everybody is saying. You heard the reply by Honorable Dr. Balarabe, and also the reply from Comrade Yawa, the two individuals who pleaded that we pedal down on blame game and look at solutions. Bearing that in mind, Prof, what is your own proposition? Are you supporting the 1963 with some, as Akun said, with some infusion of quote unquote current realities? Is that your position, or are you going back again, sticking to your gun of 52 states as was proposed during the conference?
Thank you very much, Prof. And colleagues on the panel, thank you for giving me the second opportunity to express myself. What I will say here is this. The Middle Belt should have gotten its region, but it was denied. Successive regimes in Nigeria have corrected that. Midwest was corrected, and they got their Midwest region, 1963. The military corrected that and created and released called Calabar Ogoja Rivers. 1996, Abacha fully merged Midwest and core so that they form South-South. West remain. Southeast remain. When he came to the North, he did not correct the colonial imbalance. I've been hearing the National Assembly, and I thank that Honorable Dr. Balarabe is here. You see, when you present history, historical facts, one, and when you present social facts, people who do not want to hear that, they will call it lamentation. When there is injustice and you speak and demand justice and you cry out, they call it lamentation. They have said that Southeast has only 5 states, while North and West, they have 6 or 7. Therefore, for you to do state creation, you have to balance the Southeast by giving them a state. Before we create regions, as recommended by our brother Akin, what the British failed to do in order to subjugate, to subordinate, and to leave the people of the Middle Belt under those who do not love them and who have no interest in them. What is going on in the Middle Belt is foreign, is external. Fulani have come in. Boko Haram has come in. Bandits have come in. What are they doing? It is modern migration. You can call it terrorism, you can call it jihadism, you can call it whatever you want to call it. It's modern migration and land grabbing. So my proposition is simply this: create Middle Belt region. If they want 2, you give them 2. If they want 3, you give them 3. And I hope my brother Akin, in your own proposal, the states that were created by 2014 National Conference that relieved and liberated the Middle Belters from their forebears, from their domination. Let Nigeria create Middle Belt region. If Nigeria fails to do that, it means that Nigerians have colonial mentality in their hearts and in their mind. Colonialism, whether ancient colonialism or modern colonialism, in Nigeria today, you still have internal colonialism. And my plea to all Nigerians, especially my dear brother, the Honourable Dr. Balarabe, what you need to do in the National Assembly is to go back to history. What is the history? The history is that the British deny Middle Belters their region. But Nigerians have corrected it. First Republic corrected Midwest. Military corrected core. But Abacha balkanized Middle Belt. That is serious. My Honourable, this is what you need to do in the House, is to look into history. Look at the desire, the pleas, the documents that the Middle Belters have written to the British and to the rest of Nigerians. And if we do that, then you will have people in Nigeria who have been neglected and who have been dominated, that you Nigerians today, you can set them free. The Honourable House, they can set us free. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Wow. I think at this juncture, I mean, obviously, Prof, I do understand where you are coming from, perfectly so. Again, I mean, I have to leave it at that. Let me quickly find out if Madam Hajiya Binta Adamu still have...
probably you and I will have a private chat so that I can
I think... No, I think, Prof, what I would do is, because this is a 6-7 man panel, or rather 8, the time allotted is very not much. I'll probably arrange a one-on-one with you where we can obviously expend an hour, only both of us, and look at these issues, in a broader context. Now, Hajiya Binta Adamu, you have listened.
Good evening.
Yeah, good
I have.
evening. You have listened to all the submissions. You've listened
Yes.
to all the propositions, ranging from
Yes.
8 regions, 1963, which appears to be the most favored, with some
Yes.
more or less tinkering here and there. And there are propositions for more states. In all this, what's your take?
For me, what Professor Akin did, he said, proposed draft constitution. So if it is taken to the House of Assembly and the National Assembly, and also for people to debate on, we'll get more points to lay on. But to me, sentiment should not walk us up here. Let us see the realities, how we'll get solutions from other people. We have the youths. Let's carry the youths along. Let them go through what Professor Akin has written and other people, so that we advocate for people to go and see what is being said before we draw conclusions. What we need now is solutions to what our problems are. We have problems in the country with the constitution and whatever. So if it is given for people to debate on, to go through, if you don't have an idea, you will know what.
Prof, Madam Hajiya Binta.
I read the whole thing and I got what he was saying, and I'm reading. So at the assembly, pardon?
No, sorry,
Are you
go
saying
ahead.
something?
No,
Hello?
your connection was a little bit off, but go ahead now.
Yes, the network is the network. So the House of Assembly and the National Assembly and other people should contribute to this topic. It's not something we just talk. It's not a 1 day or 2 day or 1 year thing. It's something that we really have to work on. Advocate for people to go through this and read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So you're sticking your gun and insisting that what Akin has done, Dr. Akin Fapohunda has done, is the way to go for further conversation. Now, where do we go from here? Can we draw inspiration from other successful constitutional models if we move away from 1963, such as, some would say the American model, but again, many would argue that that is what is giving us trouble. 1963, British. We all saw yesterday, for instance, when that an election on Thursday finished by 10:30 at night. Before 4 in the morning, there was almost the whole nation knew who was leading. Before 12 noon, the winner already met with the king, and they're talking about constituting a government. And yesterday, government was constituted. Today, ministers have been appointed. Now, fast forward. Within 48 hours of casting an election, the new government, with all the government paraphernalia, has been in place. Isn't that a model that, considering our reality, isn't that something that we should be looking forward to? Now, this question, I would want any of the panelists who wish to make intervention, 2 minutes max, to this question, to please kindly do. Not everyone would have to. If you raise your hand, I would call upon you to do that. However, this applies also to those of us in the comment section. If you have any question, please kindly raise your digital hand. You'll be called upon, or if you have any intervention to make. I can see that Pamsin is already raising his hand. Professor Chidi Osuagwu, please, to the question that I might pose, could you make your 2-minute submission?
My final statement is We must take note that the First Republic collapsed because of imbalanced federation. And whatever solution we find must carry balance. Balance between North and South, and between minorities and majorities. We can get sentimental and say, okay, like somebody says, okay, give minorities six days, give majorities days. Before you know it, the whole thing will collapse. There must be balance. Balance North-South, balance minority, majority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I have, I would want to bring in Honorable Dr. Balarabe to make his final submission before I take the audience. Honorable?
Yeah, thank you very much. I really want to thank you, Mr. Eze, for providing this platform, and also Mr. Akin Fapohunda for that his brilliant submission on regionalism, or a review of the Nigerian Constitution. My input is that all of the discussions we are having honestly have been more or less elitists. You know, we have been discussing on platforms, speaking English all across Nigeria, when, you know, the grassroots organic structure of the country that is the citizenry that is meant to really know what's been done, largely kept in the dark. So I want to urge all of us to continue this conversation at our states and local government levels. And also, platforms like this should also go down with local languages. We are trying our best in our own zone up north here. So I will stick with the proposition of Dr. Akin Fapohunda on the amendment or complete review of that Annex 2 of the decree that established the Constitution by an act of the National Assembly that will invoke, you know, discussions, you know, all around the country over a period of time, and to come back with the most appropriate type of parliamentary system that everyone will be happy with. And also, I will wholeheartedly follow what the last gentleman said, Mr. I think Mr. Eddie, that there should be balance in the north, balance in the south, balance between majority and the minority nationalities, Islamic nationalities in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that quick and straight to the point intervention. We just have one of the panelists just came in. Obviously, there might be some issues why she's late. Before I take the audience, let me quickly give her a chance for her own intervention. I do not know how far you've listened, Madam Annkio Briggs. You haven't.
Good evening, everyone. Maazi, I'm so sorry. You know, I'm used to this program coming on a bit later, and even though you informed me it was 5:30, my brain was not really functioning along those lines. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. But I have just been able to come in. And I've not really, though I understand, though I'm aware of the topic, I think I would like to listen just a little bit more before I can really intervene.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Now, Pamsin,
thank you.
If you don't mind, you initially raised your hand. If you want to make your intervention before I go to Pastor Danladi Njenje.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Pamsin.
It's been an interesting discussion, and it's very educative and very enlightening. But it's concerning how we seem to readily accept dividing the nation along ethnic and cultural lines, while avoiding discussions about religious differences. Isn't it absurd that 230 ethnic minorities of the Middle Belt, who were clearly identified in 1900 when the Northern Protectorate is to be formed, they were identified by their by their religious belief. That's why they were called pagans. And now, because somebody is saying we are trying to look at the Middle Belt in terms of religion. Religion, just like ethnicity, is a demographic variable. So if that is critical, then why should we close our eyes to that? The other issue I want us to look at is that we seem to have a total consensus on the 1963 Constitution. Perfect. The only area where I see we have a dividing notion is whether we should go back to 6 or 12 regions against what we, the Middle Belt, are seeking. More unique identification of our boundaries in such a way that we are insisting on states. And by the confab, there was an agreement for 50. What is wrong with that? If that will solve our problem, if the issue is some states cannot manage themselves, don't forget that if we are going back to true federalism, nobody will be waiting for handouts from the center. So it means those states must be creative enough to survive on their own. So why can't we have a larger number of federating units, similar to the system we have in the US? Why are we reverting back to just 6 units? To appease who? To appease ethnic preferences. Me, as a Middle Belter, who will resist that kind of notion because it tends to trigger some sensitivities within us that we want to be subjugated under areas that we have been struggling from our forebearers to get the kind of independence we are looking for. So I am behind Turaki on this totally. And that is why you see when Akuns was talking, he insisted current realities. We already have states. And why is the federating unit not going to be based on that? Why do you want to take us to regions? Why won't the states who claim to have associations among their ethnic configuration, they can form their regional alliance? We don't have a problem with that. But we will resist any notion. We, the younger, the youthful group of the Middle Belt, we don't want to hear regions in the classification of what used to be in 63. I think that is our position. So it is crucial to open and be honest in our conversation about these issues to ensure a fair and equitable society for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, your presentation, I would say it's very loud and clear. It's audible to the deaf and visible to the blind. You know, if you're speaking on behalf of the Middle Belt youth, it's very clear that anything that has to do with region, that you're not in support of that. Now, let me share this document produced. One of the, I mean, can you guys see my screen now? Can you see my screen? Can anybody here see my?
The Nigerian map is not complete.
No, hold on. Can you see?
The Nigerian map is not complete.
Okay, hold on. So that's what I want to. Don't worry.
Yes.
That's what I want to. Now, this is the proposition made by Akin, and his group here. Let me see if we can make that slightly so that it's visible to everyone. Okay. Now, if you look, there is Northeast, Eastern Middle Belt, Southeast State, Southern State, Middle Western State, Western State, Western Middle Belt, and Northern Western State. If you ignore the nomenclature of those regions as federating units, the core thing there is that the states therein still exist. In his own view, that there should be more states created within but the regions will be at a governing structure. Therefore, the notion that region is abhorrent, probably once looked into, I can share this document. I mean, I'm not in any way, shape, or form. My point here, I'm not in any way, shape, or form proposing anything. My point here is to drive and encourage and moderate this argument for all of us to actually, look at these things deeper. Some people have taken serious issues regarding the nomenclature of the name and the way it's been done, because you can see that middle belt states appear in two areas. There is one eastern middle belt and there is another western middle belt. If I want to be a little bit sarcastic, I can say actually what the middle belt are looking, if we go by this, what they are looking in Sokoto is already in their Sokoto, because middle belt appears twice, and that certain areas it's actually diminished. But again, that is the essence of, in my understanding, the essence of that is for conversations to be driven. That once this comes out, let this conversation begin. Hence the reason why we are also having this conversation today, because it's part of that conversation, right? So let me stop that now and take Pastor Danladi Njenje. Pastor, if you don't mind, unmute and make your intervention or question.
So, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor.
All God's people that are here in this platform. I'm very grateful to be part of this wonderful presentation. I have two major contributions. One, who coined the word major people in Nigeria and some people, minor people in Nigeria?
Sorry, say that again.
Again, who coined the word major people in Nigeria and minor people in Nigeria? Yet they are human beings. Who did that?
I think the professor can help us.
Therefore, that major people, one day on 3rd February 1976, told the whole world that they have found 8,000 square kilometers of land in the middle belt because the major people are not having space in the 8,000 square kilometers of land will now turn to become the political capital of Nigeria.
Where is my glass?
While the same major people who leave part of that major people to still retain the commercial capital of Nigeria in Lagos. And according to them, according to the major people, that Bari, Gede, Gana, Gwandara, Basa, Igbera, Koro, and Mama, that Creator gave them this federal capital territory, 8,000 square kilometers of land, even before Nigeria was amalgamated. As long as the major people are not here, the land is virgin land. And yet today, projected population is 3,565,126 people. Please, what Professor Yusuf Turaki has submitted, and the National Assembly, please, let's calm down and correct things. Let reality be done now. How did you create people and call them minor and people major? We are human beings, and this is our Creator's land. Ethnicity people that are the created, by the way, that man called Nigeria, when did he even come to be? It's 1914. We were all here. Somebody now come and corner and said that there are some people that are minor, people that are major. And the languages have been here. We are all, this is our nation. Somebody who didn't have place here are now Professor Turaki asked a very terrible and wonderful question. He said, the Igbo people are not the one taking our land. The FCT, as I talk to you today, over 33,450 hectares has been clearly demarcated and broadcasted in that the FCT now is going to be having grazing reserve. Yet it's the political capital of Nigeria. The idea is that the country who call themselves major even go bold to say that this FCT land is to be like state, and it's not a state. And all of you have been here for 48 years, they are treating us like this. Please, let's do something correct now. Who blindfold Nigeria? The word colonial, what is the meaning of that now? That we didn't have the head. Somebody come and gave us a head. We are here. Thank you very much. And if I want to finally say that, I want to let all people here, FCT has over 858 villages, according to Millennium Development Community Studies done by 2008. And the result is available. Go to Google, you'll see the result. You cannot come and, the major people come and now, the person who did the broadcast did it in Lagos. He was assassinated in Lagos, flown to Kano to be buried. But he told the world that nobody exists here and the land is virgin. We are here. It's middle belt. Give us our middle belt. If you want to demarcate into three, all those words are there. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submission. So I think at this note we'll be rounding up. But before we do, I would, for all the participants once more, probably give you 1 minute for your closing remark. Then for our sister that joined late, and if you don't mind, you may haven't listened to other submissions, have more than that to give your closing remark. Then afterwards,
I was thinking I would see. Sorry.
After we have gone off, well, after we have stopped streaming, if you wish, you can stay back for a couple of minutes. We may say hello to one another and have conversations offline that is not recorded, that is not transmitted. So, Pastor Danladi, once more, you're still raising your hand. Danladi, you're still raising your hand. Can you unmute? Oh, okay. So, like I said, in 1 minute, if you don't mind, to give your closing remark, Prof. Once more, Professor. Sorry. Okay. I think Professor Turaki, are you there? In 1 minute, please.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for setting up this forum for this discussion. How I wish that this type of discussion will go down, reaching every Nigerian, because it is very, very crucial. The historical imbalances in Nigeria, the historical injustices in Nigeria. Those of us who are historians, who are sociologists, who are anthropologists, and who are religious people, we know where the problem lies. We all know it. But as we know that our people, Nigerians, do not want to sit down in a round table and discuss what type of Nigeria do we all want. That was what our founding fathers were not able to do. They were only interested in putting themselves or putting their legs into the British shoe. For example, after the British, you have Bature and Bona. It simply means that he is a European who is an agriculturalist. Bature and Asibiti, that is somebody who has taken over the hospital. Nigerians, we are shy. We are afraid of each other. We have no forum that we can sit down as we're doing and discuss with each other so that we can recreate Nigeria, that every Nigerian will feel at home, that he or she belongs to Nigeria. But today, no, that is not what Nigeria is. We cannot be blaming the British. The British have gone over 60 years. And yet Nigerians were still struggling to do what? We're still struggling to kill one another. We're still struggling to impose ourselves on top of others. You see, the issue of regionalism and parliamentary, presidential, and all those things, they are rooted in three pillars that the British built for Nigerian political philosophy and culture. First is ethnicity. The British built the structure of Nigeria on the ethnic pillar. The second one is religion. They built Nigeria on the basis of religion. And the third, regionalism. These are the three pillars that have informed Nigerian political culture and philosophy and practice. No Nigerian will be elected for anything in Nigeria except if they use these three pillars. We are looking for Nigerians who will transcend these besetting pillars, political besetting pillars for Nigeria. We want politicians who will speak for and behalf of every Nigerian, not their region, not their tribe. We don't have that. So we should move beyond this politics of ethnicity, religion, and region, and create a politics, a new politics, where Nigerians will talk about themselves as Nigerians, where every Nigerian is equal.
Thank you very much.
Every Nigerian is a Nigerian fully, not substance. If you read my works, you will see the type of values, moral, ethical values that govern Nigerians. The biggest of them is that of self-centeredness and selfishness, pride. The second one is greed and lust. And the third one is fear and anxiety. These are the three human attitudes, behavior, and practices that govern our moral and ethical life. We're looking for politicians who will transcend their ethnicity, their religion, and their region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. For us to quickly close, and I think Annkio Briggs, because you haven't made any. You can now, please. Oh, what happened? Annkio, are you out? Oh, there. I think her network, obviously, have taken her out. Now, Prof, in a minute, Professor Osuagwu, in a minute, obviously you've given your final word, but if you don't mind, if you want to summarize once more in a minute or two before I get in Comrade Yawa to do that for himself too.
Okay. I think what I want to emphasize is that Nigeria is malfunctional because of structure. and we need to rectify that structure. Society is a system. It's not something to be sentimental about. And the systems have structure. And the British who understand this design Nigeria to be unstable structure, which is why it collapsed in 1966. And we've been unable to correct that collapse till today. What we need to do is to go to the documents and read up on how that structure was brought about. Secondly, federations that survive in a situation where you have active ethnic groups. That's not fiction. You have active religious groups, very serious issue. That's not fiction. You want to build a federation around these factors so that the stresses they cause will cancel. And that is why you need to create a balanced federation. In this case, a balanced federation of northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria. Minorities against majorities. The idea of minorities is a technical issue in sociology. It's not the issue of just a strict talk. The Willing Commission report was the minorities commission. And there are three major ethnic groups in Nigeria: the Hausa, the Igbo, the Yoruba, and the rest are minority groups. We need to balance this so that nobody cheats others. The minorities are no angels at all, and neither are the majority. We need to balance the forces they constitute so that they cancel each other, harmonize, and create a new Nigeria that can flow with what's going on in the Sahel, in East Africa, and everywhere. The world has to change. The joke we have lived for all these years cannot be sustained anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think, Comrade Yawa, let me quickly, if you quickly pick your call, and in a minute, if you may just put your own closing remark.
Hello, Maazi and distinguished panelists.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for the privilege once more to be part of this very educating and educating forum. Let me say, in my candid opinion, that no matter what, human beings cannot be detached from sentiment. Therefore, in the objective analysis, we have some element of subjectivity. This is human and therefore natural. However, we can put to a reasonable extent some of the unnecessary elements in order for us to cut a way forward. And in this case, I must say, the issues of ethnicity, of religion, are to me secondary when you compare them with the economic interest. And so long as we are talking about the physical or geographical or political restructuring of the country, without attitudinal restructuring of the components, if we go back and be behaving the way we are behaving, no matter how many times and no matter how we restructure our political arrangement, it may not work. We have to work on the two, because what we have now has been bastardized by the people who are supposed to make it work. And that is why we see it not working here, but it has worked elsewhere or in other countries, because the people are more honest and they are serving, not just using people as stooges for self-enrichment. Nigeria is a very sensitive country, very strategic. We cannot continue to ignore this agitation and feelings of people. The earlier we come together, discuss and agree on a way forward, the better. And it is in the interest of even those who are working against the working of Nigeria to allow Nigeria to work effectively, because when, things fall apart or rather disintegrate, no part of the world will be completely safe because of our population, and naturally will affect many other nations with our problem. So it's better to help us manage the problem of Nigeria in a civil manner, so that we have a solution for the rest of the world to also be in peace. As it is today, no part of Nigeria is okay, and no person in any part of Nigeria is satisfied with the way things are going. So we really need to review things in form of restructuring, but not just political or geographical, but also integrate the social restructuring. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, comrade. On that note, I will say thank you, everyone who joined us. Thank you, all the panelists. I did appreciate your time and for the candid expose. This is a quest for solution. Now, we have at the beginning, as we started, there are propositions at regions. There are propositions, those who strongly believe that states should be created. And there are people who also believe that some of these propositions should be merged, taking 1963, infusing 2014 to it, in order to get something, in their words, that reflects our current realities. In all this, it is very clear that something is not right. It is very clear that no matter which region, that everyone feels that something is not right. That conversation that we have had this evening is the conversation that we believe at the national level, the leadership of the National Assembly, those that matter, that this conversation is something that should be detaining their attention. No matter how we look at it, it is also apparently clear that these propositions, some homegrown, some obviously at some point practiced, in this part of the world, but no longer the case now. However it is, we must keep discussing. Again, thank you very much once more for the panelists, Dr. Akin Fapohunda, Hajiya Binta Adamu, Da Jonathan Akuns, Annkio Briggs, Professor Chidi Osuagwu, Dr. Shehu Balarabe Kakale, and Reverend Professor Yusuf Turaki, Comrade Abdullahi Yawa, PhD. It's been my pleasure to host you this evening. On that note, I say we will keep having this conversation. Some of us on this platform will still be having a one-on-one with you, because I do believe that some of your postulations, the time did not allow you to really go into details. On that note, I say thank you. For those of you who still want to stay around and have unrecorded and untransmitted conversation, please stick around. Those of you who are watching us on our various social media platform, please, if you're not following us, by all means follow us, subscribe, and share this conversation with others. The conversation must continue until we get to our destination. I am Maazi Ezeoke for Njenje Media